Hours after Assange was called to testify, Rudy hints why Mueller should be next by US4Trump.com. In a cascade of congressional hearings, as our elected officials provide oversight into various concerns of the American people, Julian Assange, who is an Australian programmer and editor of WikiLeaks, announced he is next in front of Congress. Additionally, in a blockbuster move, Rudy Giuliani, personal attorney to the POTUS, hints to the American people why we could very well be seeing Mueller answering to Congress within a year or two. Why so long? What? Giuliani is still at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The WikiLeaks editor was sent a letter from the U.S. Congress to testify in a bipartisan closed-door session, as WikiLeaks posted proof of it on their Twitter account. Assange is open to the meeting, however, his lawyers seek conditions that must conform to a high ethical standard. So here's the tweet below. WikiLeaks here. This was dated August 1st. Breaking: U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee calls editor Julian Assange to testify. Letter delivered via U.S. Embassy in London. WikiLeaks legal team say they are considering the offer, but the conditions must conform to a higher ethical standard. Giuliani goes on the record with Hannity in a blockbuster revelation that Mueller might be next. Well, let's take a listen to what he's saying instead of me repeating what he's going to say here.
Separate issues: collusion and so-called obstruction. There's a report today, you said no questions on obstruction. Am I assuming here that your response to him was maybe a couple of written answers only?
Well, I can't tell you what it is yet because we haven't.
Sure you can.
No, I can't. Jay'll get very angry at me. My co-counsel is much stricter about this than I am, so he'll get very angry, and Jane will. I'd love to tell you, but the reality is, he doesn't need to ask a single question on obstruction. He has all the answers. They're not going to change. The president's not going to change his testimony. So stop the nonsense. You are trying to trap him into perjury because you don't have a case.
Mr. Mayor, the Constitution, as our good friend Mark says, Mark Levin, is on the president's side. I agree it's illegitimate, has been. The double standard is so glaring. We have been pointing it out now every night, and with new details every night. My question is, I wouldn't give him a thing. You don't owe him a thing, and if he wants a fight, then there's going to be a fight.
Well, we don't like to fight, you know that.
Mr. Mayor, I used to watch your press conferences. I disagree with that.
The reality is, the real story here is not that this case isn't going to fizzle. It's going to blow up on them. The real question is what we talked about before. There's a lot more to what they did that nobody knows about yet.
I know some of it.
A lot more to the obstruction of justice, to the collusion, to the fake dossier.
Oh, I know.
Trying to bring Steele back in after he was completely discredited.
And then feed it to Mueller.
Yeah, and Mueller is going to have a lot to answer for.
Mr. Mayor.
I said a long time ago, the investigation here has to be of the investigators, because we can't let this happen again in American history. We may not have a president as strong as President Trump. A lesser president could have really been cracked by this.
Mueller, then you got Jeannie Ray, you got Andrew Weissman. Here's my question. We know the Department of Justice has absolutely denied congressional subpoenas. Now, I don't, as great a lawyer as you are, I don't think you'd get me out of trouble if I was ignoring a subpoena.
No, I don't think I could.
But the president has the power to go through these documents, through the FISA, and make it unredacted and let the American people see that the bulk of information was what Christopher Steele himself said.
Well, that's something
wasn't verified.
That's something that, as his private lawyers, that he has to do with Emmett and his government lawyers. And he's going.
Would you suggest he should?
I can't tell you what I suggest. It's privilege.
Okay. Let me ask you about the FISA lies. The bulk of information, the Grassley Graham memo says, came from the phony dossier that Hillary paid for. That turns out to be a lie. The author of it says he can't corroborate it.
Right.
Now here's my question. So they used it 4 separate times to spy on an American citizen, an opposition party candidate campaign associate, in the lead up to the election, after the election. Again, what if I lied to a judge? I wouldn't think of lying to a judge without getting my life in jail afterwards.
You'd be investigated for perjury, you'd be investigated for contempt, your career would be ruined, your life would be ruined, and I believe that when this plays out over the next year or two, it's not going to be about President Trump. It's going to get over with. It's going to be about all the things they did. You know how sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime? In this case, the investigation was much worse than the no crime.
Mr. Mayor,
The president did nothing wrong.
my sources are telling me that when the American people get to the bottom of all of this, it will shock the heart, the soul, and the mind of any fair-minded American.
I think it's going to lead to some very strict, very big reforms, just like Watergate. It's a different kind of Watergate. It's on the side of the investigator.
Okay?
Corrupt investigations, through and through.
Why would you even consider a counterproposal?
When it's over with, I'll explain to you.
Boy, I'm not getting anything out of you tonight. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. All right, when we come back, Andy McCarthy.
Well, as you can see, I don't know. To me, it seems like a year or two. I think it's like really slow walking things. You know what I'm like? I'd like it done yesterday, not a year or two where they're under investigation. But you know, time will tell. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.